Hey beautiful humans, you are here with Shana X Lee, and for those of the team at Vulcan, I'm recording this video for you guys as cooking class for the BeWell week that's coming up. We're going to do a bit of a healthy eating demonstration for you all today, and for those in my general social media world, hi, I'm still alive and I'm still here. I've been rather quiet, doing a little bit of self-development, self-work and self-nurturing away from the mainstream. As you all know, there's a lot of chaos going out there. And I stand by what I preach, and looking after ourselves is the main thing that we need to be doing day in, day out to be able to do more for those around us. So that has been my journey since November, I think it is. And I've been offline, and also the Vulcan team, you guys haven't seen me in a long time. And I was so thrilled when Meghan reached out to have me do a piece for you all. So I hope you all enjoy it. Today, I wanted to do one of my favorite dishes, and something that I've definitely wooed my partner with is my spicy beef soup. And I'm going to show you guys a few variations and moderations on how to utilize it in different dishes. And you all know I'm a waste not, want not queen. I can't stand wastage. So I'm going to show you guys a few variations that you can do with the leftovers as well, which is something I'm so passionate about. So we're coming into winter, you guys can all feel it, I'm sure. And one thing that the institutes and the officials won't tell you much about is that you guys have got an incredible resource inside your kitchen, usually, of ways to look after your immune system, ways to boost your body, your ability to fight for yourself, your ability to stay healthy and high-spirited by what you have in the kitchen. So if you haven't got a good variety of herbs and spices, a good variety of a fresh variety of fresh produce in your kitchen and in your cupboards, then I definitely would say that's the first place you should start. Looking after what goes into your body will enable you to give more on the outside, and more production at work, more calm, focus and passion in your day-to-day life, relationships and everything around that. So today with the soup that I'm going to create, I'm not just going to show you a soup, I'm going to show you a variation that I would actually also use as a stew. So I'll show you where I'd modify it into the stew, and where I would then transform it into the soup, and from the stew what I would modify that into. So what I have here may look like a fair bit, but I've simplified it for you all and I've chopped it up, so we're going to have a shorter lesson today. With a hot and sour soup, you want to have your herbs and spices, your meat component, or not a meat component. Guys, this time of year is when a lot of people's bodies are shutting down your metabolism, going into hibernation and slowing things down a bit. So for some of us, particularly endomorph body types, we actually need to lower our protein throughout this time and actually conserve the digestive system. As much as you might feel like reaching for a big leg of lamb, a big roast, these things are going to clog and slow the digestive process, slow the ability to uptake things into the mind and keep ourselves clear and functioning. So I get it, you're going to want it, but this sort of soup and stew and casserole I'm going to show you is hearty, full of vegetables. It's a balanced dish, but a really great way to also, I love that, soups, is keep your hydration up. I know many of you out there do not keep your hydration sufficient. Not a dig, just an awareness. So I'm going to try and help you guys to hack that and keep your hydration up through some of the foods that you might eat. So a hot and sour soup needs to have several components. It needs to have a salt, it needs to have a sweet, a sour, and in my books, every dish needs to have a bucket load of vegetables and herbs and spices. This here is your baseline kit for keeping your immune system amazing. In this, I'm going to create, you could use onions, you could use leek. Today I'm using leek because this is one of the most greatest power sources for our immune system, our digestion, our brain and everything. And it's also a low irritant, so a lot of people are allergic to onion. So if you are someone who has your epigenetic profile, I would recommend that all of you go into your app, go into your food section. Make sure you check out, make sure you're up to date with when are the recommended biological times for you to be eating or drinking. Go to your food list and have a look what is at the top of your list. This list here, my friends, this is what I've been doing for years now. This is not just a list of foods. Out of all the foods in the world, for me personally, leek and thyme and lentils and linseed and trout are the biggest bang for buck to me to try and make sure I consume every single day. If I do this, my digestion, my brain, my gut, my mind, my energy, everything will function 5 million times better if I could just ensure I have these things. These are my own superpowers. If I have these things, I am unstoppable. So make sure you go into that and have a look at what are the things that your body is requiring at this point in time through this season. Your food list will change summer, autumn, winter and spring, and it may change by the time frames that are best to have them, the amounts that are best to have and where they rank. So it's a really incredible resource. No one else has this. This is personalized to the individual. So guys, if you're a Vulcan, make sure you're checking in with that. Make sure you're keeping your measurements up to date so that it can then know where your body is sitting with what hormones, what compounds and where your stress levels are at, so it can help you to understand what food portions and best proteins are going to be needed for you. So I had some some beef in the fridge. My partner is actually an ectomorph, and I have a client / best friend coming over tonight for dinner who is also an ectomorph, and these two groupers are good with protein, but it needs to be well cooked. So a slow cooker, a casserole, a stew, something like that is going to be really, really awesome for them. But also, because I'm not having a massive amount, so for 3 of us, I use 2 little scotch fillets and I chop them down. It's not a massive amount of protein, guys. Please remember, your portions of protein are usually the thumb size of your hand for you, not a whole steak. So 2 scotch fillets will be ample for all of us. And it's also going to have a bucket load of veggies to distribute it through. It's going to be easily digested. And I personally, as an endomorph, the bigger body, I am best off to have a lot of raw vegetables and salads. So I'll serve the boys this while I have a bit more salad component with a small portion of this, therefore being able to feed all of us at once. So getting us started, what I've done today is I've chopped up my beef and I've looked into my app and found which flour source is best for me. And at the moment, arrowroot's pretty okay, so I've used that one. Look in your list. Is it flaxseed meal? It can be used as a thickening agent. It will thicken a little chunky-ish, so be warned of that. But it does absorb a heap of the liquid. But also some of these vegetables will do that anyway, so don't stress too much. You can also increase the fluid amount or decrease the fluid amount. But even if I'm making a soup, this amount will actually make it quite velvety, which is a really, really nice consistency when you're having a hot and sour soup without having to add any dairy. So into that, I've added, like I said, the flour. I've also added my first element of acidity or sour is apple cider vinegar. I've done that to help marinate it, but also to help soften the meat. Into that, I'm throwing 4 cloves of garlic, which I've just chopped. And this is all going to go into my pot that's sitting over there raring, ready to go. I'm then going to throw in my leeks, which I've chopped up really well, and saute them off until they're really well caramelized. Then what I've done is I've chopped up and gotten ready my celery. Now celery is incredible because it helps with fluid retention. It also helps to make dishes salty without actually being salty. So if you're a guardian or a diplomat, in the evening, and a connector, sorry, in the evening it's super duper 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 important that you don't have too much salt. The sodium is going to cause fluid retention, it's going to cause a spike in your blood pressure, and that's what we want to avoid in the evening because that's a stress. So we want to be calming the digestive system and enabling it to do a lot of the things that it needs to do at night time to slow down and rest and repair. So celery is an absolute must. I do use the green bits. It adds a beautiful flavour to a dish like this, it really does. Then what I've done is I've prepped up my carrot and my pumpkin and just chopped them up ready to go. Once those 3 components are fried up, I'll keep it nice and easy for you. Once they're fried up, I'm then going to add in all my veggies. The other one I've got here is some broccoli and some cauliflower. Who here throws away your broccoli stems? In a dish like this, your broccoli stems are fantastic. To just take the stem, cut it into a square, so take both your side edges off and your top and bottom off, cut it into little battens and then cut it into cubes. It's going to cook down really well. You're not going to know it's really in the stew. It's going to seem like another vegetable. I've also got in here some cabbage, another amazing fighter of cancer. It's a great way of boosting the body's immune system. Cabbage is the unsung hero. It's also very sweet. Most of you wouldn't realize cabbage is the perfect thing to add to any stew, curry or casserole. And I've also got some zucchini in there as well. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add in all of our spices. Now you could add them in at the meat time, depends on how you want to go. I personally do prefer to add my spices to the meat, so I'm going to do that right now while we're chatting, but I'm just going to throw it in the bowl. I'm just going through what we have. So here I'm going to add in some curry powder. Go by your flavour, guys. If you don't like the curry flavour, just add a tiny bit. If you're allergic to curry powder, don't add it, add everything else. So the next one is Cumin. Cumin will be on 98% of profiles because it's an incredible antihistamine, antifungal. It's an absolute power source for fighting against the common colds, flus, and protecting your immune system. Smoked paprika. Who doesn't love a bit of smoked paprika? This stuff is absolutely one of my favourites to have. Now it might seem like a lot, guys. Go by your food list. If you're lazy and this seems overwhelming, grab everything that's on your food list, all the spices, throw them in the one container, mix them up, and I'm pretty sure they're going to taste flipping amazing. I even made muesli bars the other day. Chocolate almond, prune, cranberry, and pear, and hazelnut muesli bars, and I actually threw in it some dried thyme. You can't taste it, and it's so darn good for you. I've got some oregano, it's another one that's about 4th on my list. Thyme is 1st on my list, so I'm going to use some dry one. If you've got fresh, go for it. Popping those in there. If you don't want to have too many of these things in your cupboard, one of my secret weapons is Garam Masala. It has 3/4 of all of my top herbs and spices in the one. Absolutely beautiful there. Of which, if you added this, I wouldn't need to add as much cinnamon or anything like that. So it's entirely up to you if you want to add more or not. A good crack of pepper in there. Don't give yourself any RA sign. Up to you if you want to use some seeded mustard or some mustard powder or some Dijon mustard. Whatever you've got, don't get too carried away. And then the other thing is, if you can, and if it's on your list, chili. And I've also, guys, I love these pastes. Paste is such a good hack. Everyone is time poor or lazy. And most of you will agree. You may love cooking, but most of you are time poor. So these pastes are my absolute favorite. I've always got a vegetarian tom yum, a vegetarian laksa, and the reason why I have that is because some people are allergic to shellfish, so it's just a safety precaution to have the vegetarian versions in there. Yes, a vegetarian tom yum, a laksa, and a green curry paste in there, and I can add the fish sauce and stuff like that if I know someone's not going to be allergic. And then the other component I would then add to my dishes is some fresh turmeric. If you've got it, if you don't have it, use some dried turmeric, doesn't matter. Our chiropractor was giving out bucket loads of it, so I just jumped on it while it was there. And I'm just going to throw that in with the meat. And you can just stir that through and leave it as a marinade on the meat for sure. The other one is ginger. Now some of you may go, what on earth is the difference between these two? If I take the turmeric, when I come in here for this one, if I take the turmeric and snap it versus the ginger, the turmeric usually has quite a strong yellow, from a light yellow to a strong yellow colour, depending on the age of the turmeric, whereas the ginger will always have quite a light colour. The smell of this one will be more earthy, kind of more like sand, to be honest. And the smell of ginger, well, you should all know the smell of ginger by now. It's absolutely wonderful. So throw that in there, a good grate of both of them. If you're not a big fan, don't add it in there. And then the other part that I want to talk about with you all is some of the sweet and the salt that I add into this sort of a soup. So having this already makes your life a lot easier when you go to the cooking phase. Now, something that my family has done since the beginning of time is use things like Vegemite in our cooking. My mum quite often would not have Worcestershire sauce. She would often not have soy sauce. And she'd make up the most amazing dishes using Vegemite, and I thought she was a weirdo until I became a chef and realised kind of why she did it. The other thing though is that I know personally for myself, being a diplomat at this time of the year, I know that actually a brown rice miso paste is really high on my list. So I'm actually going to use some of that today. And the other thing is, this is the kids' Vegemite. I normally would buy the gluten-free Vegemite, just for my own preference. I try to keep gluten low as much as possible, but go with your own body and what you need. So miso paste looks very much like Vegemite. It's just a paste. It smells really strong and pungent like Vegemite. They're very similar. The other thing you can use is you can use normal soy or a sweetened soy. So ketchup mayonnaise is one of my favourites, but very addictive, full of sugar. So just know, depending on how you want to do the dish. I'm not going to use that today because I'm going to show you guys my other twist in this. The other thing you can use is Worcestershire sauce, or if you've got like a tomato chutney in the fridge, use what you have. You don't have to buy a million different ingredients. I'm trying to give you guys a multitude of different ways of adding different ingredients to a dish. Food for thought. So that's the salt component. Now our sweet component, I'm just going to throw that in here with the beef. About a tablespoon. Now the sweet component, many people might look at me weirdly. I often have tomato juice in my fridge, and I will tell you all because I do love Bloody Marys. They are one of my favourites, especially with a really good kick of chilli in them. So what I will use to add to a hot and sour soup is actually, I will add a cup of tomato juice and a half a cup of a fruit juice. And because of the kids being here occasionally, we've quite often got a bit of fruit juice in the fridge, so I'll add a little bit of that. If you don't have it, you could juice some orange into it. I will also always add some lemon into it as well. If you want, you could add a bit of fresh lemon zest, and you can also leave that to the end. If you get to the end of taste things and you go, oh, I need something more, taste along the way. Your taste buds are going to be different to mine. So always sit there and try different things. So that's what I would then add. I'm actually going to do that because I absolutely thoroughly love some good lemon zest in all of my dishes, because the acids and the oils in the lemon juice itself are so good for your immune system, for your digestive system, for everything. And you guys can check inside your personal profiles. Each of the ingredients will actually say why that ingredient is recommended for you. And if you haven't got a zester at home, I recommend getting one. They are a saving grace. The ones that are on your hand graters are atrocious. You will spend forever trying to get the minuscule amount of zest out of them. And you can get them thick like this one, or a real fine grater like this one, but they're a great weapon to have in the kitchen. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut down, I'm going to jump across to the stove, and I'm going to start throwing this together, and we're going to talk about how you mix this in the different stages, where I would stop and turn it into one dish, and where I would stop and turn it into the other dish. Okie dokie. So, our cooking component. I've got the oven on. If you've got a slow cooker, you could totally prep all of this, throw it in a slow cooker, go to work, come home to an amazing stew, casserole kind of a thing. If you're doing a soup, you definitely do it in the pot, but I still prefer to start it off in the pot with the meat and the spices and whatnot, because it's going to brown things off and add the maximum amount of flavour, and then maybe transfer it into a casserole dish and pop it in the oven until later. I've got a bit of time before our friend gets here, so I'm probably actually just going to pop it in the oven, because I may get distracted and you don't want to burn your soup or casserole. So that's for those people that get distracted really easily. Great hot tip. So what I've done is I've got a pan here nice and hot. I've recently purchased this really great roasted garlic smash oil. Use whatever oil is at the top of your list. I try to fluctuate through all of my top ones usually. So I'm going to pop that in there nice and hot. Throw in my meat and all of my herbs and spices, guys. So we've got the miso, we've got the lemon zest, we've got all the dry spices, some chili, the flour component, the apple cider vinegar, and all of the meat, and salt and pepper. That's going to go in. I was asked if I wanted to wear an apron before I came in here, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to let you guys, but I never cook with an apron at home because that's just more things to clean. So I'll be real with you guys, and I don't use them unless I'm working. So that one's in there. We're going to get them cooking off really, really well. And then once they're done, once they've browned off a bit, we then add in our onion and garlic. And it kind of becomes a bit of a, it'll take a bit to cook it down. And then we'll add in each of the different bowls. Give them about 3 to 5 minutes in each process. Cook them really well, and then I'm going to show you guys where the next stage is, but I'll get Clint to pause the video right here. This is starting to really stick to the bottom, so I've just added in my leek component, which would be your leek or your onion component, and the celery. and get them cooking off. Give them a really good stir. If it's sticking heats, I do have here some turkey broth that there's an organic farmer down here at the Bundle Market, the racecourse, that does a bunch of bone broths done organic himself. So you can use that to add in and remove the stickiness from the bottom, which is all of an amazing flavour. Just a little bit, nothing too much. And then that will just help to lift all that amazing flavour off the bottom of the pan. And make sure you get it off, because that is what you've been working towards, is getting that massive amount of flavour in there. And then we're going to let it cook for a couple of minutes. Like I said, about 5 minutes on each round. As you pop them through, they'll start to slowly cook down. Add the rest. Now I am using a smaller pot. If you were to do the soup, I'd actually use my tall pot. And guys, yes, it is a massive pot, but this is something that you can get to a certain point and then separate it and use part of it as a casserole. When I do the casserole, so I've spoken about all these veggies, when we get to the casserole point, what I'll actually quite often do is throw in a can of cooked lentils, because that'll help thicken it and make it really like rich. And the pumpkin, I would put that in there, cook that down really well, and the pumpkin will become part of the sauce. If I'm doing the soup, I would allow enough room to add a bunch of liquid into it and make it into a soup consistency. But as you can see, becoming nice and close here, you'll actually see that it's turned really quite velvety and saucy there with all the meat juices and these bits of veggies. So that's why I've added that flour component in there, because if you were to make that into the soup, it's going to be really velvety. If you keep it as a casserole, that stays really thick and really, just a really nice sauce consistency. So we'll switch off and I'll come back as I add all the rest of the vegetables. Excellent. So here I've added in the orange vegetables, so the carrot and the pumpkin. I would add a little bit of liquid again here at this point, about a cup of just water. Again, lifting all the flavours off the bottom. And you can then also add in the liquid of your tomato juice, which was like about a cup of tomato juice, and about half a cup of your fruit juice, which is a sweetening agent. Hot and sour casseroles, hot and sour soups are the bomb. And a good kick of chilli in there will really help keep everyone happy. Maybe put it on the table if you don't all like chilli, just add it to the table so that everyone can choose their heat. Then I'm going to add in the rest of the vegetables, so the broccoli and collie. And last I will add in my zucchini and my cabbage, because I like to give them, you still want to get them translucent. It's not going to matter if they cook down, they become part of the sauce and the body of the dish. But I would like to give these vegetables a bit of a stir. Now once I've added all the vegetables, this is when I would then add extra liquid. Extra liquid, and I would also add, if I was to do it, the tom yum paste. So that's when I would add the last of the vegetables, cover it in liquid, add in some tom yum paste and some extra lemon juice. But to that, I'm going to do it as a casserole. So I'm going to add in some lemon juice. Use your hand to catch the seeds, just a little trick there, or you can use a proper juicer. And then I would then add the tom yum and continue on. Because the boys are here, like I said, the boys are, give some silence, the boys are both ectomorphs. I'm an endomorph, so what I'm actually going to do, this mixture here will be fine for me. As you guys can see, there's a lot of vegetables in it. But for the boys, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get some sweet potato and some pumpkin, and I'm going to turn them into a mash. Add some butter, add some salt and pepper. If Parmesan cheese is on your list, it would go delicious inside of it. I've also made for the boys before some caramelized leek, so you just saute off the leek while you're cooking off these root vegetables, and with some garlic, and then add that into the mash, and it was a definite winner with the kids as well. Just food for thought. You could also then take the casserole, another food for thought. So say day one, you do half casserole, half soup. Then maybe day 3, you would turn a casserole into a shepherd's pie. You could take this mash and pop the meat component in the bottom, cover it in a mashed potato, pop some sunflower seeds and some sesame seeds on top, and maybe a bit of a cheese of some kind if that's on your food list, and pop that in the oven, and you've got an incredible shepherd's pie. So it's really about diversity and making different dishes. Another thing I know that's really high on my list is kimchi. So if I was to make the soup, Seaweed and kimchi are super high on my list, so I actually bought from an Asian grocer a while ago the green seaweed wakame salad stuff. And so I have it in the freezer. Whenever I want it, I slice it, defrost it, and pop that on the top of a lot of my dishes. But also some kimchi, which I'll grab the jar to stay there. Kimchi, I get again the vegan one because there's no shellfish or things like that in there, so it's just a safe option. And the other thing I would then do is finish all of these dishes off with some fresh basil or fresh coriander, and finish off with as much fresh herbs as you can. Bring in the flavor. There is no reason any dish should be bland or boring. This is the basis that I use for a lot of different dishes that I do, whether it's a green curry, a yellow curry, whether it's a goulash. Hungarian goulash would still have a hot and a sour component. Obviously, just not as much. A Hungarian goulash has a lot more hearty beef flavors and paprika and tomato base. So just play with it, but this is the time of year to be making really beautiful dishes that are full of vegetables. Don't make them too high in meat. My most saddest point is when I go to places to eat and they serve up dishes that are full of meat and there's no vegetables. And one, I think about costing for people. Guys, you all know meat costs a lot of money. This is the way to make the cost of meat much, much less. You're still satisfied, you're getting a heap of fibre in there, a heap of vegetables, a heap of herbs, you're boosting your immune system, you're lowering the toll on your digestive system, and you're really enabling the entire family to enjoy a meal that's going to benefit them in every way. Try this at home. If you have any questions, pop them below, private message me, I can help you out. If you haven't got your profile done, or you want to get your profile done, or you want to reboot your profile, reach out to those. Either if you're at Vulcan, reach out to Meghan and the team and they'll help you guys get back into the swing of things. If you're in the outside world and you haven't done this yet and this has got you curious, Clint and I are putting together a few things that you guys will want to know about very soon. But I'm going to finish this one up and I'll hopefully grab a finished photo for you all and pop that as the cover of this video.